Welcome back. 775 days, but he's finally got to a coal mine. Part of a week-long tour through Queensland, the Labor leader visited Isaac Plains, the mine near the Bowen Basin, renewing his attacks on the Morrison government for dumping the resources portfolio from Cabinet. For their analysis on this and much more, enjoyed by two Queenslanders actually tonight on my Tuesday political panel, Assistant Minister for Women, Senator Amanda Stoker, and former Queensland Premier Campbell Newman. I'll start with you, Amanda. He's out there in the coal industry area. You can tell there's an election in the offing. How much of a mark do you think his argument about you taking, or you, the Prime Minister, taking resources out of Cabinet is hitting home with miners?
I think it reflects a desperate attempt to try and show relevance in a sector that he has not supported on the ground for years. The fact that he's got to be dragged kicking and screaming in the wake of an election to even visit a coal mine, and a metallurgical one at that, he couldn't possibly go near one that produces thermal coal, says a lot. But the line he's using to suggest that there's some problem with the way that the resources portfolio has been allocated in Cabinet is utter nonsense. We are the party that is committed to the jobs of people in the resources sector, and we're not going to take lectures from the people who stand in the way of getting greenfields projects up because they're not prepared to do what's needed to get them going, and we're not going to take lectures from the people who are standing in the way of sensible reforms to the EPBC Act, which would make a better balance between ensuring we can get mines happening and take care of the environment.
Yeah, of course, Campbell, you can have, any number of people around the Cabinet table with whatever titles you like to give them. But if the policies are crap, if the policies are against coal, if the policies want to drum out fossil fuels, doesn't matter how many people around there call themselves resources minister. But I think the problem, the opening here for Albanese, is it was a silly own goal, I have to say, by the coalition.
Well, look, this environment of a coal mine is so foreign to Anthony Albanese that I'm really quite concerned about his health and safety. I hope he doesn't break out in some strange allergic rash. But seriously, Peter, I just got to totally back up what Senator Stoker has just said. The coalition has all the runs on the board here. It's got strong representation by MPs and senators in the resource states who, people like Matt Canavan, who are always pushing the coal issue, and it's front and foremost. And for the suggestion that the coalition isn't committed to the sector is just nonsense. And really, as you pointed out in your intro to the topic, to be over 700 days before the leader of the opposition gets anywhere near a coal mine speaks volumes. Look, I personally, through the next election campaign, any chance I get in commentary, I will be pointing out that really this is nonsense from Labor. It is just spin. They actually have a fundamental problem backing coal.
Let's say we're 12 months or less from the next election. Senator Stoker, your Liberal colleague there from New South Wales, Andrew Bragg, he wants the voice to the government, this Indigenous voice, to be dealt with in a referendum. I presume he means a referendum at the next election. Others want it voted on in the Parliament. They want it legislated this side of an election without the Australian people having their say. I don't support either view here. I don't think we divide Australians by race, but I'm interested in your view.
I think you've hit on something really important, and that is we are all Australians, and the purpose of our government frameworks, the purpose of the Constitution that governs us, is to bring us all together as one. It's not constructive, in my view, to divide Australians into classes or races or genders or anything else in the government document that divides responsibilities across this nation. And while we have a process underway as a government, it's called the co-design process for what a voice to Parliament might look like. That's still to come. It'll be the product of considerable consultation, but we mustn't forget that while there has been enormous consultation with, I guess, a peak group of Indigenous people, all Australians deserve a say on this, and that's why it's something that shouldn't be rushed, it should be done properly, and it should be done with an eye to our social cohesion.
Well, the only way to give all Australians a say is to have it as a referendum, Campbell. And of course, Ken Wyatt has said he's not going to move on the referendum idea at this stage because he doesn't think it would pass, and instead is going to run it through the parliament. Now, that says to me, you can't get it up with the people, so you'll backdoor it through the parliament. I think that's wrong.
Well, it is wrong, absolutely, and I don't agree with Senator Bragg either. I have not supported this issue in the way it's been presented, for most of the reasons Senator Stoker said, that we shouldn't be dividing people by race, and there is representation for any Australian, regardless of their religion or their race, how long they've been in this country, whether they've been here for, their ancestry is thousands of years, or people who just came in as a refugee, 4 or 5 years ago. All of us get the opportunity to have our voice heard. And I will never support this. I will, if it goes to some sort of community consultation, I'll always say that, and I would never support a constitutional amendment as well. This is just a bad idea. And I'm sorry, but I can also point to a number of Indigenous leaders who feel exactly the same way, because they actually do get it. And they want to provide real solutions to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander disadvantage. And it's about, in those communities, doing the things to get good health care, to get better educational standards, and to end the violence, particularly against women and children.
Yeah, and look, I want more Indigenous people in the parliament. Like Jacinta Price, I'd hand out how to vote cards for any of them, because I think that's the place where you have the broadest reach of the Australian population. That's where you make the most difference, and you're there on your merits. You're not there because of some other reason. Amanda, I want to show some statistics at home. I think they're really illuminating. This is the vaccine rollout data that comes out from the Health Department. This is yesterday's update. But it shows, despite all the carry-on, that there's not enough vaccines out there. If you look at the table, it shows that 3 million doses are going begging. Do we know why?
Peter, I'm informed that that figure is actually off. But what we do know is that the rollout continues apace. More than 9 million doses have now been vaccinated. That means that 75% of people who are over 70, well and truly, are now vaccinated, and over 55% of people over 50 have had their shot too. It also tells us, though, that there's no shortage of supply. If people want a vaccine, they can get one, and they can get one quite readily. It's very important that people aren't put off by misinformation that suggests they're not going to be able to get a vaccine if they want one. They are there, and people should talk to their GPs about what works for them, and not sort of buy into the surplus, in a sense, of information that's out there. Go straight to the source to get what works for their particular health situation, and that means talking to their GP because there's plenty of vaccines around.
All right, Amanda Stoker, Campbell Newman, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.